This episode is brought to you by Nordstrom. Summer's almost out and fall's calling. Luckily, Nordstrom has everything you need for the season ahead, all under $100. Discover new arrivals from your favorite brands like Mango, Princess Polly, Wave, Free People, BDG, and more. Whether you're planning a last-minute getaway, heading back to class, or refreshing your office looks, you'll find the latest trends and beauty must-haves without breaking your budget. It's easy, too, with free shipping, free returns, and in-store order pickup. Shop today, in stores, and at Nordstrom.com.
Are you feeling more fulfilled now that you're back to work?
This Friday.
No. I need a vacation.
See the movie that critics are saying is an awesome.
Look at that.
Crowd-pleasing, fist-pumping, all-out brawl of a film.
You're right about that.
They're coming after our family. Go fix this.
Oh, my.
Nobody 2. Rated R. Only in theaters Friday.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon Prime. From streaming to shopping, Prime helps you get more out of your passions. So whether you're a fan of true crime or prefer a nail-biting novel from time to time, with services like Prime Video, Amazon Music, and fast free delivery, Prime makes it easy to get more out of whatever you're into or getting into. Visit Amazon.com/Prime to learn more.
This episode is brought to you by Espolón Tequila. Slow, sticky, snoozy. They call these the dog days of summer. But Espolón? They don't do boring. Welcome to the Marg Days. Espolón Tequila. 100% blue Weber agave, born to shake up your summer. Just add lime, agave, and a little attitude. Visit EspolónTequila.com. Espolón Tequila, 40% alcohol, volume 80 proof. Copyright 2025 Campari America, New York, New York. Drink responsibly.
Hello, everybody. This is Tony Ruggiero here on the Tour Coach Podcast. I appreciate you joining in. If you haven't listened before, these are my stories from my travels, the people I meet, the coaches, the teachers, the players, mental coaches, wherever it is from around the travels that I have in this game, whether it's from my studio in Mobile, Alabama, all the way down to where I teach mostly at Old Palm, down in Palm Beach Gardens, or out at a live event or a tour event or a Corn Ferry event. But all of it is things that I find interesting, entertaining, and helpful to all of those of you who are wanting to play the game better, teach the game better, and just love the game of golf. Hopefully you'll enjoy what we've got going on here. We've got some exciting stuff coming up for each and every one of you. If you like what you hear on the podcast, you can always find more content as we're kind of spreading our wings, if you will, with Dew Sweepers TV on YouTube. Just go to Dew Sweepers TV on YouTube, and there's links to it in our description. For example, just go on one of those links and please support the Dew Sweepers and support and like our page there on YouTube. And to kick all of this off, we've got a great promotion, a great contest running through Masters Sunday. And if you go onto our YouTube page and subscribe, and on any of the videos in the comments section, you just put hashtag Dew Sweeper TV. That's hashtag Dew Sweeper TV. Or you take a screenshot of this podcast, and on Instagram, you tag me at the Dew Sweeper and hashtag Dew Sweeper TV. We're going to sign you up for a drawing on Monday after the Masters for a set of Srixon irons, ZX 4, 5s, or 7s, 12 gloves of your size, and 12 dozen balls. We're going to do that drawing Monday after the Masters. All you got to do is you can check the links in the description part of this podcast, or for a link to it, go to YouTube TV, type in Dew Sweeper TV, and listen to watch some of the videos, listen to it, put in hashtag Dew Sweeper TV or hashtag Pro Work or hashtag Tour Coach, and you will register for the drawing the Monday after the Masters. It's a set of Srixon irons, 12 dozen gloves your size, 12 dozen Srixon golf balls, all to make you play better. Hopefully you'll enjoy the Tour Coach. We've got great sponsors, as I say, each and every week here on the Tour Coach. Can't forget Buick GMC and McConnell Automotive, my good buddy Mitch McConnell, Visor Skincare, Bushnell Golf, and all of the stuff they've done for us. We got some great Pro Work episodes being filmed and coming up. And, of course, Srixon, Cleveland Golf, and don't forget Taylor Martino and Rowan here in Mobile, and Stokely's Garden Express. But I'm Tony Ruggiero. We've got great stuff coming here on the Tour Coach. We got a great contest running through the Masters, chance to win Strixon equipment. Hopefully you'll enjoy my conversations and our roundtables and our discourse on how to improve at the game of golf. I've enjoyed sharing all of it with you. I hope you enjoy it. We've got more coming. All right. So joining me here on the Tour Coach, actually for the first time, we've talked a lot off the podcast, on the phone, by text all the time. I'm probably one of his highest maintenance top 100 teachers of all times. But he's the senior editor over Instruction at golf.com, and they are hot right now. They're putting out tons of stuff. Mr. Nick Dimengo. Nick, what's going on, brother? Appreciate you taking the time out there on the West Coast, kind of sitting with me for a little bit. But appreciate you sitting in, and it's going to be fun.
Yeah, thanks, T. I really appreciate it. Trust me, you are not at all the most high-maintenance golf top 100 teacher I have. Not to say anyone else out there is, but you would not be high on the list, I would tell you that.
Man, to tell you what, one day we ought to do a whole podcast on who the highest maintenance people are. That would be,
Yeah, exactly, right? Call some people out.
Oh, my gosh. No, but you got lots of great stuff going on out there. You guys, obviously, I wasn't able to come out to the summit in Phoenix, but I know you filmed a lot of great stuff, and there's tons of stuff coming out on social. One of the things that I've been part of a few with you has been the Stroke Saver series, which for folks out there, if you look at it go to golf.com and you look the stuff up, there's some really, really good articles for folks of all skill levels out there. I think you guys have done one of the things I think you've done a really nice job with is taking instruction that's for a wide variety range of golfers versus just tips from the tour. And granted, that's very popular, and I'm fortunate to teach folks that do that. But that's also not who every golfer is.
Totally. Yeah, it's something I'm really proud of, and I really appreciate you mentioning that, because I think, in my background as a player, I've been playing this game since like most 80s kids and teenage kids in the 90s, since Tiger won his first major and his first Masters, right, in 97. And I think that, getting into the game, playing it for 20 some years now, I have yet to break 80. I'm a bogey golfer. There are certain days where I shoot 95, certain days where I might shoot 85, 86. And I can't tell you exactly why I shot what I did, right? Or I played a certain way. I don't have the mechanical or swing fundamentals to really look back and say, all right, this is the why. It just happened. And I think so many golfers are out there that can relate to that. And I think what I've started to really realize over my year plus that I've been at Golf Magazine and golf.com is understanding that why, arming yourself with the right equipment, the right training aids, understanding how to read a launch monitor, working with, different coaches. You guys all have different styles of communicating. Some works for, really high level players. Other works for the casual golfer like me. And I think, to take that instruction and kind of put it into layman's terms, if you will, for the average players is so important. That's, like I said, what I'm most proud of for what we've been doing with Shaving Strokes.
I think one of the art, if you will, of coaching and teaching is that, I'm of the belief that, really what we're trying to get a tour player, what we're trying to get you to do when it breaking 80, the concepts are the same, right? The geometry and the physics of golf. But the art of coaching is to find the ways to communicate to the student on different levels, because obviously there's folks that come to me that are crazy technical and they want a whole bunch of science and info. And then there's people that, man, they just want to get better, right? And the art of coaching is figuring out who the person in front of you is and what they need, what is it that they need to get better. And what you started with is finding out the why. I talk about that all the time. You got to figure out why a person's not getting better. What's the main thing, and fix the root cause.
Totally. I think that's what separates you. I mean, I know that's what separates you as top 100 teachers from any other, local golf instructor out there, is the way you communicate. And I can absolutely vouch for the fact that having taken lessons with more than a handful of your colleagues, I've yet to with you. We'll make that happen soon. But, being out there, my brain in some instances will be completely fried because I'm on camera thinking, I don't know how to answer these questions. Like, this is a very golf specific question. I don't know the answer to it, and I'm going to just try and fake it till I make it on camera so that I don't look completely lost. Other times there's real good casual conversation. It's, hey, can you take this loop and put it around this hook? Yeah, sure. If that's what you want me to do, I can do that. Other teachers, though, could say, all right, now we need to tie the loop, certain amount of strength. We need to make sure that it's really tight. We need to make sure we hold at this amount of strength to get it on this. And it's like, that is way over my head. I don't learn that way. And again, what you guys have been able to do as top 100 teachers, that's what makes you the best in the game, is being able to identify how one of your students best communicates and learns. And I think that's credit to you guys for doing it as long as you have.
So as you've gone down this road, one question I'll ask you too, because I've known folks, that there's been people that have become worse golfers because they've had access to tons of instruction, great instruction, right?
Yep.
I remember way back in the early days of my radio show and stuff. I remember one time listening to the great Peter Kessler was on, the same network, and I'd had him on my show and I'd been on it, but he talked about, all of that instruction, right? And I think Brandel at times has talked about that as well. How has your journey been now that you've had a bunch of really good instruction, high-end instruction? Are you playing better?
I am. Like everyone, especially someone who, as you know this, I'm a new dad. My daughter turned 5 months old today. So it's been a grind in terms of getting out to the course, during the winter, getting to, the indoor facilities and the golf simulators. So again, that's not an excuse, but I think a lot of golfers can relate to that of I just don't have the time to really put in. Now, to your point, I've been really fortunate to work with the top teachers in the country, and arguably the world, who teach the best players in the world. So my game at a very high 30,000 foot level, I can't sit here and say, you know what, I'm on the cusp of breaking 80 every single time I'm out there. But, as I get out there and I do play and I have those feels, I've noticed, all right, the past 2 rounds I've played, I've missed only being able to play 9 holes each time, but I've missed 1 fairway. Mm-hmm. So I'm hitting it about 260, usually middle of the fairway. So I dialed in my driver. Last June when you and I spoke, I had the yips. I couldn't hit anything off the tee. I was hitting everything off heel. I was so frustrated. There was a round where I think I was playing 18 with my buddy Gray here in Seattle. I was so frustrated with the way that I was hitting my driver that on hole 15, I actually just said, screw it, and went to a 4-iron off the tee, because I just thought, it's much better to be 30 or 40 yards shorter, but have a good, decent, second shot, as opposed to, searching for my ball on the left side or right side of the rough, right? So I've really dialed in my driver with the help of you guys. I think, again, high-level fundamentals, just understanding where you need to be address during your setup, how your grip should be, what your pre-shot routine should be, all of that stuff. I had no concept of it other than, going out there and thinking, well, I'm athletic enough. I know how to play sports. I know how to be successful in other sports. This is the same thing. Golf is so different. And I think working with you guys and getting those lessons and editing and working on articles that you guys produce, I learned so much from that I'm very fortunate to be able to apply that to my game to get better.
Well, I think one of the two things you talked about there. Well, first of all, going to the driving of the ball. Everything is about distance nowadays, obviously, and it's certainly important. But when we're talking about the person trying to break 80 or trying to break 90, which is a vast part of the people that listen to you and I talking or that read your articles or go on to golf.com. If they're hitting it 20 yards into the woods or they lose balls, the distance doesn't help them. I mean, you've got to get the ball, in play, to speak, I think is the first. I think that's a huge factor. A huge factor to me when I'm looking at, I get a lot of folks that come and they want to break 80. And the two things I look at are, one, can they put it in play reasonably off the tee? And like you hit it, you said 260, like you hit it far enough to break 80 from where you play, right? But you've got to drive it in play. And then the other is errors like inside 100, like, when you're 50, 60 yards from the green, do you not get it on the green? Right. Like those are the areas to me that I look at because, and some of those are, like you said, process as far as routine. Some of it is how you aim and the targets that you pick. And then some of it's obviously mechanics and swing issues as well.
Yeah. One of the best pieces of advice to kind of echo that was from one of your, fellow top 100s, Brian Mogg, who's based here down at Chambers Bay or in Seattle. I would go down and see him probably once every week, every other week during the summer and spring before my daughter was born. And, as you just mentioned, my goal is to break 80. I wanted to do it before October when I had my kiddo. Unfortunately, it didn't happen, but I think I'm on the right, I think the right steps right now to get there. And what Brian told me was, Nick, before anything else, you have to learn how to score in golf. And I thought to myself, what does he mean by that? Like, I know how to score. Like, you put it here, you put it there. And he's like, no, you're doing these things. And that's why you continue to play bogey golf. It's why you continue to shoot 90s, low 90s, because you don't understand what you just mentioned, how to put the ball in play. If you can't put the ball in play off the tee, whether you're using a fairway wood, off the deck, a driver, a 4-iron, whatever it might be, if you can't get it in the middle of the fairway, you're not learning how to score. And I think too many golfers, a lot of amateur golfers, they get intimidated. They step up to the tee box. They see their buddy with the big dog, swinging it, getting loose. Think, all right, I don't want to take a breakfast ball. I'm gonna bomb this thing. And they go back to bad mechanics. They rush everything. Their transition's off. They slice the hell out of it. Next thing they know, after one shot, they're already in their head. And it's like, you didn't learn how to just score better. Why don't you just take a 4-iron, poke it out there, get yourself off, on the right foot, if that's what you need to do. And so I think that was really important advice for me to hear from Moggy.
No, I think it's great. And it reminds me, I always get into telling stories. I don't know why, but I did a golf school. We were with Mark Wood, who's, you probably don't know him, but he was a top 100 for a long time, top 50 guy. Anyways, he was one of my early teachers and mentor. And we did this golf school down in Mexico, and we had, it was a small group. We were trying a thing out, and we had this lady who had never broken like a 45 before, but like she was really like a mid 50 shooter, right? Mm-hmm. And so we did the morning and we go out on the golf course, and my job was, Woody and I's job was to caddy for her. And I just picked the clubs and the targets, and she shot 39. And
wow.
Yeah. Now look, she made a bomb. She chipped in one. I mean, there was for sure some luck and happenstance in there, but like it was stuff like, okay, you've got 160 to the flag. You can't, and there's a big bunker in front. Well, like you can't get it there. Let's hit it 120 yards over here to the right, where then you got a wide open pitch in, right?
Yep.
Stuff like that, going along with what you said. And I think that so many folks out there, when it comes to breaking 80, and which is kind of where you are, is a lot of it is golf swing stuff. There's no question that's a huge part of it. But it's once you get to me where you're shooting in the mid-low 80s, and you've got good solid fundamentals, you talked about your setup, a lot of it is learning how to play, learning where strokes are going, refining, how refining just the whole process. Like, where do you leave yourself? Like if I'm going to, I got a 4-iron into this hole, the odds I hit it 10 feet aren't great. But if I miss it, where's the right spot to miss it? Like those are the things that over 18 holes, to me, are the difference between shooting 82 and 78.
Absolutely. I mean, you know this better than I do. I think understanding the misses is so crucial. Again, as somebody who's hunting, that 80 to lower number, I mean, there are a lot of times on my second shot, on my third shot, where I just chunk it. And I look back on a round and I think, man, I did that 5 times in a round of 18. Like, if I take those out, imagine if I stuck 3 of those, 60% of those where I wanted it to. How does that now impact my third shot? How does that impact my putting? Am I closer to the hole and I have a tap-in par as opposed to, a 25-footer for bogey, hoping that I can have a tap-in double?
Right.
How to avoid those. And I think understanding your misses and playing smarter. I mean, I could go into course management and all that stuff. Golf has so many layers to it that, when you think about football, all right, throw me a football. Tony, you know how to throw a football. Yep. You just aim right in my hands. I'll catch it. Same thing with baseball. Same thing with soccer. I'll kick you the ball. Golf, so many players think, oh, this is easy. I just have to get this little ball in this hole. The process between that is a much harder task than most people think about. And the strategies that you have to have in order to accomplish that in 4-5 strokes or less, you have to be locked in on every single shot. I think a lot of golfers overlook that.
Well, and 2 things. One, understanding that the target is not always the hole, right? Like,
exactly.
Kind of going back to what we were talking about, like with the 4-iron, like it's where you're wanting to play the next shot from. And it's, it's very much like the analytics in football where now everybody's going for it on 4th down, right? It's like, well, percentages and the numbers, and Scott Fawcett, he does a great job with a lot of the numbers and, the probabilities and so forth. But like, where do I have statistically the best chance from? If I played this hole 10 times. And, I think that those are areas that a lot of the golfers, recreational golfers, but all the way down to like single digits that play really good golf could benefit from understanding, just like how you think your way around the golf course. Like, where's the appropriate place to leave it? And, and then also understanding that bad shots are going to happen. They're part of the gig. But when I hit a bad shot, the best players in the world, generally speaking, there are times they do, but generally speaking, don't magnify that and make things worse. They figure out how to get out of there with everything's damage control once they hit a poor shot, right? And, that's to me where the guys that shoot 82, 83, they hit 2 bad shots, but on those 2 poor drives or a bad second shot, oftentimes the worst score they could make on that hole is what they end up writing on the scorecard.
Yep, totally. Again, going back to Moggy, he was telling me he was in a golf tournament, and I think he got, a tip from either Nick Faldo or Nick Price, prior to this tournament he was playing in. It was, a amateur tournament, trying to qualify for some major tournament, I believe. And he said that the advice was no doubles. And he was in a situation where exactly what you just described, Tony. I mean, he knew that he could hit a shot that was a hero shot. He knew he had that in his bag. He was like, I could hit this probably 6 out of 10 times. But I know that 9 or 10 out of 10 times I can hit this safe shot, just get myself on the green and save bogey. No doubles, right? And that's what he ended up doing, and he ended up winning that tournament, I believe. And I think that is really important. You have to take your medicine sometimes. I mean, we all want to. We've all seen the shot that Bubba hit at Augusta. Mm-hmm. That is not. There's a reason why that's such an iconic shot, right?
Yeah,
because
it was hard.
Happen. It's hard. So I mean, when you're an amateur player, you're 15, 20 handicap, whatever you might be. I mean, golly, man, in that situation, punch out, take the medicine, save yourself for the next shot, trust yourself that your wedge game can get you onto the green, and get up there and 2-putt and bogey. Save yourself from trying to get through a 3-foot hole from the woods that on either side is a branch or a tree trunk that if you hit, all of a sudden now you're going backwards. And now it's even worse. Now you're shooting 3 from 12 feet behind you. So I think that, understanding that those hero shots, if it's not a competitive tournament where you really are trying to chase somebody, you just, like you said, you have to play it safe. It comes down to game management, better, smarter decisions on the golf course, and that's going to save you strokes. And I honestly have learned that, over the last year or so that I have played, where just punch it out. It's not pretty. It's not sexy. Nobody likes to do it, but when you're in trouble, minimize the mistakes and go out there and try and just get yourself a par. And anything more than that, you've done that to yourself by the decisions you've made on the hole.
And another thing too, like I feel like folks, when you're doing this stuff, as you're writing articles, you look back in retrospect, you're like, hey, these are the things that happen. But golfers sometimes, like, they'll come and I don't even know how I shot 83. Right, I didn't hit it that bad.
Yeah.
Right, and I had this student of mine. It was way back when I was at the Country Club of Mobile, and he would take about a lesson every couple of weeks, and I just said, hey, like, do me a favor, and every time you make worse than a bogey, I don't care about the bogeys because you're going to make bogeys. When you make worse than a bogey, I want you to just write on your note card what shot caused it. And then when you come next in 2 weeks, bring those scorecards and let's see if there's a trend. Right? Because, he would always come and it'd be the lesson like, man, you got to fix X, Y, or Z. It's my golf swing. And and what it turned out is, like, some of it was strategy. Some of it was not knowing how to play a certain shot. Some of it was, you alluded to earlier, some of it wasn't, sometimes it's not having the right club for a situation you get into. But I think that a lot of golfers could, you don't have to keep, stats like you got shot link, but just doing a little bit of thing that a little bit of a little self-awareness, a little self-research, and keeping a little bit of track of what causes the doubles, but it not being emotional. Write it down and then really look at it after a couple of weeks could help a lot of folks,
Absolutely. Yeah. We all track, or most of us track, fairways hit, greens and regulation, putts. And that's great. I think that's great, for somebody like myself who has really struggled with putting over the past year, basically. That was really the key differentiator in my scores were kind of hovering around that 90 for so long, about this time last year. That's great. But I could tell you right now, like, if you ask me why are you shooting 90, I can be like, I'm 2 and 3 putting everything, and it's frustrating, but what do you have to do to fix that? Oh, let's go practice. Maybe we work on your setup, maybe we work on your grip, maybe we work on X, Y, Z. But now that I've gotten better at my putting, or improved a little bit, and my drives have been better, my approach has been awful. My wedge games have been awful. And I think if you track that stuff, to your point, I think I have maybe 5 chunked shots in a round. I might be surprised. It could be 10. It could be 11 if I actually tracked that and went back, a week after and said, man, I left a lot of shots out there just because I mishit the ball.
Right.
Or I used the wrong club, or, I'm so enamored by trying to use my 60. Why am I not just using a pitching wedge and choking up on it, and using a smaller backswing, or, using a 52? Why is it the 60 that I have to go to that's leading these bad shots, right? So I think that anytime that you can get smarter and learn about yourself, you're going to improve in anything in life, not just golf. And, the more information you have on yourself, the better you're going to be in the game.
And I talk about this all the time with teachers. Like, you need to be authentic. You need to be yourself. You need to understand who you are as a teacher and not try to be somebody else. And I think understanding who you are as a player helps you break 82. Like, if there's an area you're not particularly good at, you have to identify that. You obviously work on improving that. But when you're playing, you need to know what your strengths and weaknesses are. I see golfers all the time, like, they put themselves in a situation that they knowingly, after they hit the bad shot, they go, I'm terrible at that shot. I hate it every day. Well, like, why'd you give yourself? Obviously there's times you can't avoid it, but when you're laying up to a yardage, or where you're hitting off a tee and there is an option to lay it back or push it further sometimes, I mean, if you're not very good at 50-yard bunker shots, why are you going to hit a drive or a club off the tee that could give you a 50-yard bunker shot?
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah, totally.
And I think that's I think that's good for for golfers to understand how you navigate around the golf course.
Yeah. Again, course management, like I mentioned earlier, it's such a key part in what I've learned from you guys as top 100s. You also mentioned, earlier the idea of going for the flag stick, and that's not always where you want to go. And, it got me thinking, you remember the Tiger Woods, EA Sports Tiger Woods video game, right?
Yeah.
They had something on there that when you hit a shot, they'd watch the ball go really high and it'd zoom in on the ball and it'd be like a bird's eye view before it landed on the green. It would get real slow and the controller would vibrate and pulse and it'd be like pin seeker. I think that was the worst thing that ever happened to my generation of golfers.
Well, because you think it's a video game.
Exactly. Everyone thinks, oh man, I'm going to be a pin seeker. And it's like, why though? You know that you can't hit that shot. Your chance of succeeding and the against having an error is so small. Why not just hit the green and give yourself a putt? And I think Gail Peterson, a top 100 teacher, she told me, she said, Nick, if you ever get a chance to play either an early round or a late round and you have a cart, do yourself a favor, drive up to the green, pull the flag, and play without the flag stick and see how you improve. Because it takes out the idea of exactly the baseball and football analogy I gave you, right? I know where I have to throw a ball to because you're my target. We think as golfers, well, there's my target. It's the flag. No. You have a humongous landing spot in the green. That's your target. And as long as you're on that, you're giving yourself a chance. If you're going for the pin every time, great. How many times have we seen on the PGA Tour someone hit the flag stick, it's an unlucky bounce, and it rolls off the green into the water or into the trap? Going for the flag isn't always the best thing, even if you hit it. So I think having that mentality and that strategy of, give yourself just a landing spot. And if you're on the putting surface, that's where you want to be. But get out of your mind that your target is a flag stick every time because, unless you get really lucky, you're probably not going to not only hit it where you want it to, but to actually hold it. That's not a high probability that's going to happen.
And one of the last things that I think, obviously you can break 80 without doing this, but, for consistent improvement, I think and to me, it doesn't matter which way and how pretty or ugly it is, but learning to curve it all one way where it doesn't cross the other way, right? Obviously, everybody makes a bad swing and those happen, but I think that's another aspect as you continue to develop. And, if it's never going to go left, Paul Azinger said this to one of my students, Rick Lamb, once at the U.S. Open. It was like, if you're never going to hit it left, how would you ever miss it right? Right? Because you can aim it for how much it's going to curve. And I think that's another, I think that people go out there to the range and they're trying to hit perfect shots, right? And they're, perfect their swing. But going out there and just trying to learn to curve it one direction is a valuable tool as well.
Totally. I just had a lesson with Jamie Mulligan, top 100 teacher down in Long Beach a couple of weeks ago, and he taught me how to shot shape. We did a Simon Says with one of his students, a former LPGA and pro golfer, and to your point, I'm out there watching her do this, and I'm like, there's no way in hell I'm going to be able to do this. I've never been able to do this in my 28, 29 years of golf. Why am I going to be able to start doing it now? And to your point, he had patience. He was really good at communicating. He taught me exactly what I needed to do to get the ball to go from right to left, left to right, hit those shots. But I think one of the keys that I really took away from it after being successful, which was really, it boosts your confidence, right? Like, I'm really excited now to go out and play my next round to see if I can hit that high draw with a 9 iron, 8 iron, right? Because now I have the fundamentals to do it. But one of the things that he taught me that a lot of amateurs we ignore is understanding when you're practicing those buckets of balls that you have. Every single ball in there is an asset.
Yep.
and understanding how to utilize those assets. Not many of us go out there and say, all right, I'm playing around today. I haven't played in a couple weeks. I need to get loose. Great. Grab your 7-iron, grab your driver, dial in, get your mechanics, get your transition. Let's head out to the first tee. Now, what I did with Jamie, which was so helpful, was he said, Nick, get a feel for the club. Put the club in your right hand and just swing it. I'm a right-handed player, so it's my trail hand. Just feel it drop. And I asked him, like, am I releasing it? He's like, no. You don't even have to use that word. Just feel it drop. Get the bottom part of the club against the ground and just feel what you're doing. Now put a ball there, and I'm hitting balls with one arm, maybe 12 feet. And then he had me, go 12 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet, all just dialing in kind of that distance control, utilizing now with both hands on the grip and understanding where my backswing needs to go, where my follow through has to go. And he said to me, imagine your daughter's out there and you don't want to hit her. So hit the ball short and roll it to her so she can bend down and get it. It was such a good visual. But we did that using probably 20 to 25 golf balls. Now, most amateurs will go out and buy, a bucket of balls. They'll have 75 golf balls in there. There's no way in hell they're using 25 of them just to get loose like that. They look at that as, what am I doing to improve my game? But I can tell you, as somebody who did that drill and got that feel, it gave me the confidence to be like, okay, I'm loose. I know what the feel should be like, where the club should be, where my hand position should be. I'm dialing in certain shots from certain distances. Now, after I'm done with that, I have 30, 40, 50 golf balls left, just enough to hit stock shots with whatever club I want. Again, to put those fundamentals into practice before a round. And I think that was really helpful for me, because a lot of these golfers, myself included, we go to the range and we just want to bomb it. And we don't have a structured practice routine that's actually going to be applicable to the golf course.
I think the key words you said in there was time, like really getting better, and improvement takes time, right? And you touched on it earlier too, about setup and learning to set up, and so many folks want to get better and get where they're breaking 80 regularly, but the people that are better players pay more attention to details and they take more time. Totally.
I mean, there's a reason why these golfers, they get up every single day at a certain time and they spend a certain amount of time on a key part of their game. Someone could spend 3 hours putting because they know that, the week prior they finished outside of the top 10 in the tournament because they had 2 holes in 4 days that cost them a chance at winning that tournament. So they spend 3 hours on putting. To be dialed in that much and be that committed to the game, that's what it takes sometimes, depending on what level of player you are and where you want to be. And so, again, that's been a big eye-opener for me as I've looked at and written some of these shaving stroke stories, is that process didn't come in 2 weeks. It didn't come in 2 months. It didn't come in 6 months. Some of these, improvements going from 100 to a 75 took 4 years. And understanding, to your point that you made earlier, all right, I know my strengths. The weaknesses, that's what I need to focus on. That's where I'm going to learn the most. That's where I'm going to save more strokes on the scorecard. And, that's been a real eye-opener for me to kind of not only respect those players who have done it in the way that you guys, coach that, but for those players to be committed to it and say, it might not be the sexiest thing, but you know what? Sometimes the sexiest products, aren't the ones that sell, So I think this is that's a really important lesson, I think, for people listening who want to improve, is just give yourself the time and commitment to focus on your weaknesses first, and spend as little time on the strengths, just to make sure that you keep those as sharp as possible.
Nick, this has been awesome. Fun chatting about the work you're doing there at golf.com. Let everybody know how to find Shaving Strokes and to find you on social media, because it's great stuff. Lots of cool stuff out there for those that are interested.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Tony. Yeah, as you mentioned, at the Jump, golf.com/shaving strokes. We have stories every day, Monday through Friday, or we're going up. They can be game improvement stories. They can be personal stories about golfers just like you and I who, went from a 100 player to a 80 player and giving the steps that they had with a top 100 teacher. And then my Instagram is just N Dimengo. I post my content on there, a lot of golf content. And as I've mentioned now probably 1,000 times already in this 40 minutes of conversation, lots of pictures of my cute daughter. So you get a little mix of babies and golf on there if you give me a follow.
Awesome stuff. One, appreciate all your support of me and everything we're doing. Appreciate the opportunity to always join in with you and the stuff. And we'll look forward to doing more together and having you on here more often.
Absolutely, T. I really appreciate it, man.
I just want to remind everybody something that I forgot. Recently, a couple weeks ago, my wife and I went out. We went to a wedding, and afterwards with some friends, we were like, hey, where's a great place to go? I'll be honest, in my travels and day-to-day, sometimes I get caught up and I forget some of the great places right around the corner. But I got to remind you about the Icebox Bar on 755 Monroe Street. I was blown away by just the whole vibe, the atmosphere, and with the Velvet Pig, the food in the back room and the big screen TVs up front. We sat there and watched some playoff games. I was blown away by the atmosphere, the vibe, and just how cool it was to have the Icebox Bar right here near the Dew Sweepers downtown, near where I live. You're looking for a great place to go sit, watch some games, hang out, play some pool. You got to go to the Icebox Bar right there on Monroe Street. There's a good chance you'll see all of us hanging out. But do yourself a favor, go visit the Icebox. It's one of the best places out there. Hi, this is Tony Ruggiero. And look, recently, several teachers I know and several players have had some scares with skin cancer. In fact, I recently went and saw a dermatologist here in town, and I had a couple things frozen off, eyelid, my face, my earlobe, and not getting any younger. And I know it's getting to that time of the season where it's cooler, but look, being in the sun is a real deal, and I've not been very good, to be totally honest, my whole career at using it at all because I didn't like how greasy it was, how hard it was to get off your hands, how it clogged up my pores. And then I found this sunscreen, Visor Skincare. It's clear, it goes on, it doesn't dry you out, it isn't greasy, it's like you didn't put anything on it. By far, it's the best sunscreen I've ever used. Without a doubt, is the easiest to use. And we've got a discount code for all of you. All you have to do is go to visorskincare.com, use our code word DewSweeper. visorskincare.com, code word DewSweeper.